Every single day you look in the mirror. You stand there for a few seconds. Maybe you fix your hair. Maybe you check how you look before you walk out the door. And then you move on with your day. But here's what's really happening in that moment. And most people never realize it. You're not actually seeing yourself. Not really. Not fully. You're seeing a comfortable version of yourself. A version that's been softened, filtered, and quietly edited to protect you from the harder truth. Underneath, your brain, without you even asking, has already smoothed out the rough edges. Already buried the things you don't want to confront. Already constructed a story that makes you look reasonable, justified, in doing your best. And that one habit, that one quiet, invisible lie you tell yourself every single morning is keeping you stuck in ways you haven't even fully recognized yet. Because the person looking back at you knows, that reflection knows exactly where you've been cutting corners. It knows which excuses you're still carrying. It knows the goals you set 3 months ago that you haven't touched. It knows the conversations you've been avoiding, the work you've been postponing, the version of yourself you keep promising to become tomorrow, next week, when things settle down. That person in the mirror knows all of it, every single bit of it. The real question, the one that separates the people who stay stuck from the people who actually change, is this. Are you brave enough to actually see it? Not the comfortable version, not the edited version. The truth. Let's talk about what the mirror accountability technique actually is. Because I want to be direct with you. This is not a morning ritual. It's not a self-help trick. It's not something you add to your routine between making your bed and drinking your lemon water. This is a confrontation, a real one, with yourself. The hardest kind there is, because it's easy to lie to other people. We do it all the time without even thinking about it. We manage impressions. We present the version of ourselves that makes us look competent and self-aware and in control. We spin our failures into lessons, our laziness into needing rest, our avoidance into setting boundaries. But when you stand in front of that mirror, alone, no audience, no one to perform for, all that falls away. There's no one to convince. There's no story you need them to believe. It's just you, face to face with the one person you will never in your entire life be able to escape. And your mind will immediately start fighting back. The moment you try to be honest with yourself, your brain will launch into defense mode. It will start listing your circumstances, your workload, your difficult past, the things that happened to you that made this harder, the reasons why your situation is different. It will do absolutely anything to redirect you away from the raw, uncomfortable answer. You have to cut through all of it. You stand there, you look yourself in the eye, and you ask one question, just one. What am I doing wrong? Not what is the world doing wrong? Not what is wrong with your situation, your resources, your opportunities. What are you doing or failing to do that is keeping you from where you want to be? And then you answer it. Not the version that sounds good. Not the answer you'd give in a job interview or tell your friends or post online. The raw, unfiltered, completely honest reality. The thing you already know but keep finding ways to not say out loud. That is where this begins. Most people think their problem is discipline. They think if they could just be more consistent, more organized, more motivated, everything would change. Others think their problem is time, that they'd be making real progress if they just had more hours in the day, fewer responsibilities, a little more breathing room. Some think it's energy, that they're simply too depleted, too burnt out, running on empty. But here's the reality. For the vast majority of people, none of those are the real problem. The real problem is that they have never, not once, developed the courage to look at themselves with complete, unfiltered clarity, without the justifications, without the softening, without the story they built to protect themselves from the most uncomfortable truth of all. I am the reason things aren't changing. Your life is not primarily shaped by what you say you want. It's not shaped by the goals you set, the vision boards you make, or the version of the future you describe to people when they ask where you see yourself in 5 years. Your life is shaped by what you consistently do every day in the ordinary moments when no one is watching and there's no external pressure pushing you forward. And if what you're doing and what you say you want are not aligned, if there is a gap between your stated goals and your daily actions, something has to change. And that something is not your circumstances. It's not your environment. It's not the people around you. It starts with awareness, real awareness that is uncomfortable enough to actually move you. The kind that forces you to sit with one simple, brutal sentence. Maybe I am the one holding myself back. Not your situation, not your past, not other people, not bad luck or bad timing, or the system being stacked against you. You, your choices, your patterns, your willingness or unwillingness to face what's actually happening. That is where real change starts, not in motivation, in honesty. And this is exactly the moment when most people quit. Not later, not after trying and failing. Right here, at the edge of real self-honesty, they flinch, they look away. They find a way to soften it just enough to feel okay about themselves again, and they keep moving without actually changing anything. Because here's the thing, blame is easy. Blame is comfortable. Blame keeps you as the sympathetic character in your own story. When the problem is your job, your upbringing, your partner, the economy, your genetics, you don't have to do anything differently. You just have to survive your circumstances. But the moment you own it, the moment you say, this is on me, everything changes. Because now you're responsible. Now you can't wait for things to get better on their own. Now you have to do something. And that weight, that responsibility, most people will do almost anything to avoid it. But here's what happens to the people who don't look away. The ones who stay in that uncomfortable moment, the ones who hold their own gaze and refuse to let themselves off the hook. They start building something that no motivational speech, no podcast, no book, no course can give you from the outside. Clarity, not motivation. Clarity, not a surge of energy. Clarity about who they actually are versus who they've been pretending to be. About the specific patterns that keep producing the same results. About the exact places where their effort drops off, where their discipline breaks down, where the gap between their intentions and their actions lives. Once you have that clarity, once you can see the problem with that kind of precision, you cannot unsee it. It changes the way you move through your day. It changes the quality of your decisions. It changes what you're willing to accept from yourself. That is the first real step toward discipline. Not doing more, not pushing harder on the same broken patterns. Understanding yourself deeply enough to actually change. When you do this consistently, day after day, not as a one-time dramatic moment, but as a daily practice, something begins to happen that most people never get to experience. You start to see yourself more clearly than you ever have before. The patterns that used to be invisible become obvious. The excuses that used to feel reasonable start to sound exactly like what they are. The stories you've been telling yourself about why you're tired, why now isn't the right time, why you're the exception, start to fall apart under your own honest gaze. And yes, this is uncomfortable. This is genuinely, deeply uncomfortable. There will be days when you stand in front of that mirror and what you see is hard to look at. Days when you realize you wasted another week. Days when the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels impossibly wide. Days when the reflection looking back at you is not someone you're proud of. Let it be uncomfortable, because that discomfort is not your enemy. It is your most honest advisor. It is the signal that you are finally telling yourself the truth. Maybe for the first time, and the truth, even when it hurts, is the only foundation on which anything real can be built. The mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't factor in how tired you are, how hard you've been working, how much you've been through. It simply shows what is actually happening. And every day that you face that, honestly, even when it's brutal, even when you want to look away, you are building something extraordinary. A mental toughness that does not come from training plans or productivity systems or motivational content. It comes from this, from the daily practice of refusing to deceive yourself, from choosing truth over comfort over and over again until truth becomes the thing you default to. This is where the real power shows up, because this isn't just about feeling more self-aware. This isn't just about having a healthier relationship with yourself. This is about raising the standard you hold yourself to and refusing to let it drop. Every day you stand in front of that mirror and confront your failures, your missed opportunities, your half efforts. You are doing something that most people never do. You are forcing yourself to take full ownership. No more hiding behind circumstances. No more blaming other people for the state of your life. No more letting days slide by without accounting for them honestly. You begin to demand more from yourself, not because someone is holding you accountable, not because there's a consequence waiting, not because you want recognition or applause, but because you have seen clearly, undeniably, what you are capable of, and you refuse to accept anything less. And that standard, once established, starts to spread into your work, where you stop tolerating your own mediocrity, into your health, where you stop making excuses for skipping the things you know matter, into your relationships, where you stop avoiding the hard conversations, into every corner of your life, because you are no longer running on autopilot, reacting to whatever the day brings. You are building consciously, deliberately, with full awareness. This is what separates people like David Goggins from virtually everyone else. Not superhuman genetics, not a perfect childhood, not an absence of pain or doubt or struggle. In fact, quite the opposite. Goggins came from a background of real suffering, real trauma, real disadvantage. What separates him is one thing: he refuses to hide from the truth about himself. He looks at his weakened S's, and instead of rationalizing them, he turns them into targets. He turns radical self-honesty into a weapon, not used against himself, but used to drive himself forward. And that is available to you, not someday, starting today. After weeks of doing this, after months, maybe years, something permanent happens. Something you cannot manufacture any other way. The mirror stops being a source of discomfort. It stops being the thing you brace yourself for. It becomes a tool, a weapon, a daily checkpoint that keeps you honest and keeps you moving in the right direction. A reminder not of everything you failed to do, but of your power to change every single day, starting right now. Because here's the final truth. The one that pulls all of this together, the person you were afraid to see in that mirror, the one hiding behind the excuses, behind the comfortable story, behind the filtered version you've been showing the world, that person is not your enemy. That person is you. And that same person, the one with all the patterns you've been avoiding looking at, is the only one who can change them. Most people never get there. They drift through their lives, distracted, unaccountable, vaguely dissatisfied, comfortable with a version of themselves that is far less than what they're capable of. They never have the confrontation. They never look long enough, honestly enough, to see what's really there. But you've chosen differently. You've looked. You've told the truth. You've stopped letting yourself off the hook. And that choice, that one decision to stop lying to the most important person in your life, that is not a small thing. That is everything. The mirror doesn't lie. And now, neither do you. If this hit home, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on notifications. New content, error week. And send this to someone who needs to hear it today.